stationed in the middle of Ferguson on West Florissant Avenue, not far from the location where Michael Brown was shot 1 year ago yesterday. And in fact, I'm actually between the McDonald's and the Chop Suey restaurant, which is the location of last night's intense police standoff with protests and rioters. And it appears that today there are renewed calls for civil disobedience and potential rioting here for the last 4 hours, watching and seeing the temperature go up in this community and on this street as some local youths and some agitators have descended and been quickly dispersed by the very, very active and vigilant police force of both the city of Ferguson and St. Louis County.
St. Louis County just initiated an emergency in the county. Why do you think they did that? What have you been observing in that area?
And that's correct. St. Louis County just declared a state of emergency, and apparently it's related to protests in the city of St. Louis that got larger and made threats that they would take their march to Ferguson and their civil disobedience to Ferguson later today and tonight. In the past 2 hours, media has converged here on West Florissant. Lots of local TV jeeps and vans and other various media outlets, along with an increased police presence. In fact, next to me, there are 4 police vehicles, and across the road from me, there are 3 police vehicles. And not that long ago, a small protest materialized out of nowhere with about 10 young individuals, and they were walking in the middle of the street, talking about Black Lives Mattering and expletives against the police, and they were blocking traffic. And just as quickly as it began, the officers in the cars next to me communicated with those protesters and told them that if they did not disperse, then action would be taken against them, and they quickly dispersed. And it happened just like that it began and ended in less than a minute and a half, literally right in front of me.
Well, Jaden, we spoke earlier, and you were talking about last night and what you observed this morning. You're telling me that there are camps situated around the area and that they are able to, look, in 3 o'clock in the morning, they're coming out of nowhere. Can you explain what you observed and what's happening?
Just to back us up, I was in Ferguson last night. A severe thunderstorm had rolled through the county, and many of the people that had been out peacefully demonstrating earlier in the day appeared to have gone inside. And I was just driving around West Florissant, and what I saw was just small groups of people. I parked again in the same area that I am today, and I had my window down and I was listening to people's various conversations. At the time, things were peaceful, and then there were rumors of a shooting, and people went running and screaming everywhere. It was sudden chaos. A cop pulled up behind me, told me that the area was going to be locked down and that I needed to leave. I respected that. I saw a mass of people suddenly stream onto the street. That was the end of what I saw in person last night. It was later confirmed that these protesters did loot a store in the process of rioting and protest against the police last night. And when I came back today, I went to the area that I thought I saw them really massed from, and it appears that there is a Occupy-style tent city with, I would say, roughly 10 to 15 large tents that could sleep 6 to 10 people, with sleeping bags and mattresses, all prepared. So clearly these protesters are not from Ferguson. They are not members of the community. These people taking on the police have nothing to do with this community and healing it. They're coming from somewhere. They're an outside element. Today I've been looking around, and there appears to be organizers in Black Lives Matters T-shirts and Michael Brown T-shirts that are driving around in vehicles that seem to be picking people up and dropping people off. Is just my observation, of course, but it doesn't appear to be spontaneous. It appears to be organized.
A lot of these, I'm looking here at these photos, and people who are listening to this can actually look at this on our YouTube channel. They can see these camps that you've discovered. What I found amazing is that if you're camping here, then you probably do not live in Ferguson. Is that correct? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, Ferguson is a small town. Driving around, you can get there very easily walking, let alone, with a vehicle or a bike. If you're staying in a tent, you're from outside this community. And I would dare say probably outside this county, because, the St. Louis County is fairly simple. The roads are great. I haven't really experienced any traffic, and it doesn't appear that there is a mass amount of outside people streaming in or traffic streaming in. So clearly, this element was here and ready in advance and organized. And we found on social media, which is why Cure came, that, there were threats of civil disobedience, and we wanted to be here to expose that organized element of the left. And, I think that when you see tent cities, what you're seeing is a pre-planned and organized element, as opposed to a spontaneous, local and regional type of protest.
Absolutely. Well, you said that shortly after the bursts of gunfire that people were streaming into the streets at 3 a.m. Surely these are not citizens of Ferguson in their home just waiting for the call. Something is going on. Something is planned. Have you been able to look on social media to see any sort of organizing?
Yeah, and I would certainly add that the racial mixture of the people indicated to me that, that they're not locals. Ferguson is roughly 60 to 70% black, depending on whatever statistics you're looking at, but it's also older white and older black with younger. And what we're looking at here is what appears to be a college age or a millennial element that they don't line up with the demographics of this city. It'd be more akin,
Go ahead, Jaden. Yeah, Jaden, we're looking at a photo right now of some of these, what might be students from a college, we're not sure where. They are white, they are in the area shortly after the gun burst. They're wearing bandanas, they're wearing hats.
That's what I would say. They're more akin to something you'd see at Berkeley, with kind of the protest, like professional protesters, as opposed to, someone that's local who wouldn't know to have a tent, probably wouldn't know that they would need big tarps for rain, probably wouldn't know that they would need sleeping bags and all this stuff if they're just coming out from their house in their community. So, question of where these protesters are actually from.
Well, have you checked social media? What have you found?
What I found on social media is that various groups associated with George Soros-funded organizations had spoken a lot in the 3 weeks leading up to Michael Brown's and the anniversary of Michael Brown's death, that they planned on coming and converging on Ferguson. Now, these leftist organizations are also the same ones that we see disrupting Bernie Sanders events, oddly enough. So we are talking about the radical left of the left. And they're coming here to take advantage of a community's hurt. If last night talk about how the rioters and protesters are a criminal element, and they're not here, they're not members of the community. And that is true. Not that they're a criminal element, but that they aren't members of a community. And unfortunately, they're preventing the very healing that cure saw when we were in Charleston attending the reopening of Mother Emanuel.
That's right. Yeah, that was the church where the young white racist fired upon congregants of a black church, killing many of them. And shortly after that, I know that you and Cure were there to represent the organization. And it surprised the media. They were expecting riots, but instead they found peace and they found prayer. But you're saying you're not seeing that here in Ferguson.
That's exactly right. In Charleston, the media expected some kind of violent element and outcome to the church shooting, and what they saw was hope, forgiveness, and love. And so many of the media commentators that were there that we spoke to commented on that it was shocking to them that there was a prayer service, that there was a church service, rather than rioting and looting. And that's what Ferguson needs, and that's what Ferguson had until these radical leftist elements decided to take advantage of this community's pain and hurt to further their own agenda. And now we are back to where we were last year, with racial agitators hoping to open a festering wound and hurt America.
Jaden, you said that many of these protesters, whether they're from Ferguson or not, are actually holding up in legitimate businesses and seemingly waiting for a call to stream into the streets. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. Having been here for multiple hours now, I can tell you that whether it's the McDonald's nearby or when it's one of the many local small businesses that are along Florissant Street, many of these individuals have Black Lives Matters T-shirts on, or they have T-shirts with pictures of Michael Brown, and they are being dropped off and picked up, and apparently appear to be communicating. I mean, just watching this, it is apparent that these people are not shopping.
We're going to check in with you later, and I appreciate you calling in and telling us what is happening. That's Jaden Horan with Cure. He is actually in Ferguson as we speak. And thank you, Jaden, and we'll speak later.
Thank you, Clint.